You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Boro, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Useless Aussie git. Where is he?
Oh, I thought we went. He hasn't replied to me yet. Let's see. Has he even read me message? Oh, we're right.
He's obviously he's in a food coma somewhere. Knowing him, I mean, he's sitting.
I thought he's upset because he haven't got a clean sweep in the Ashes. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, welcome to the Three's a Crowd, the North East Football Podcast. At least two of us have bothered to get out our pit to come and entertain the masses, whilst the other one just lies in his pit, covered in food. But anyway, this is it. Our final show of 2025, and where do we start? Because I've got to speak about another defeat.
I know it's. I watched your game. We spoke about this and we spoke about my rant about only having one Boxing Day game. I'm expecting you to be quite. Oh, thank you, man. I'm expecting you to have a good rant yourself about the performance. For me, mate, and like, correct us if I'm wrong. I think Newcastle lack a little bit of aggression up front. There seems to be a bit of fight there. The quality's there. Voltemada's a great player. Wissa's a great player. The wingers, on paper, are cracking wingers, but there doesn't seem to be the same aggression as what they've got in the middle or towards the back end of the team.
46 crosses in that game. 16 shots, 3 on target. That's your problem. It's as simple as that. And they are putting balls into the box. Now, statistically, 46 crosses sounds as if Anthony Gordon and Jacob Murphy were pinging pinpoint crosses into the box, landing on the strikers' heads, and we just weren't doing anything with it. That's, it can be a misleading stat. That I get it. 46 crosses can be anything. It can be something that's a cross from someone's foot that hits someone the backside. It can be a cross that goes across and goes out for a goal kick. A cross is a cross, but where it ends up is the most important thing. I think the most frustrating thing about the Manchester United game was that we had 65% possession. 67% possession actually, and that is the most possession any visiting team has had at Old Trafford for the best part of 20 years. And so Newcastle dominated that game, overall. But the frustrating thing for us was that we don't convert chances in those kind of games, and there isn't a plan B. And Howe seems to be reluctant to come up with a plan B, and I think that's what is frustrating a lot of the regular match goers and people who sit and watch it on TV, who are called armchair supporters. At the end of the day, it's frustrating everybody. But what it has done is, of course, it's now caused a massive falling out of supporters online. Some people are demanding for Howe to be moved on. Other people are saying you've got to stick with him because of what he's done for us. And you've got some people who are just sitting in the middle and saying nothing. And for me, I had a bit of a rant on my live Q&A yesterday. I'm certainly not Howe out. And, I think Eddie Howe will get time. But it's how much time. This is a period of our season now where we will find out a lot about PIF, more about PIF than we'll find out about other people. I thought it was rather strange timing from Eddie Howe in a press conference. Yes, he's asked a question about the stadium and about the training facilities, but to say that he might not be here when those developments or those changes are made, of course, is going to get the headlines because people are going, well, what on earth does that mean? Is he on his way? Is he thinking about leaving, or is the project going to be so far away that that's why he said it? But it's loads of things which now are causing a complete meltdown on social media. And as Jules says in the chat, the most frustrating element was that was an awful Manchester United team. Park the bus, Man United, and I agree, because they did something which was clever. You've got to say by Amarin, but not unpredictable. I would have said. I didn't go to the game. I chose to miss that one out because I'm going to Burnley, of course, on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But Boxing Day, having one game on Boxing Day, which you've already said it was ridiculous. I just 8 o'clock Boxing Day night wasn't for me. I just didn't want to do that. It couldn't into family time. But I felt that in the warm up, Amarin was warming up his back four, and they were practicing in one. Well, his defence were practicing one formation. When in fact, when they lined up, they went out with a flat back four, which of course he said he would never do. So he tried to chuck a curve ball in before the game. Gary Neville saw it, and Roy Keane saw it, and they talked about it before the match, and they both predicted that they would be very surprised if he set up in this particular way, probably set up in another particular way. And it was a gamble by Amarin, but it paid off. And watching Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall standing on the sidelines looking frustrated, scratching their heads, trying to work out what was going on was bizarre. It was bizarre. I was thinking, well, obvious what they've done. They've gone to a flat back four, and that they're playing 4-4-2. That's what they're doing. So to not do anything other than on 65 minutes, make the usual changes, which everybody could predict, and still stay one up front when you were losing the game 1-0. I just didn't understand it. And Eddie Howe will point, I guess, to the stats and go, we played well in the second half. We did this, we did that. We just didn't convert our chances. But I just genuinely felt, that game was there for the taking. And what he should have done was he should have left Voldemort on, should have brought Wissa on with him, and we should have, really gone for the jugular. But we just didn't. And that was the frustrating thing.
I didn't understand that, Steve. Chasing the game like that and to take a striker off. All right, they're not like-for-like strikers. They bring a very different side to the game. But why not take the punt? If Man United, if Amarim can actually, change from the norm and actually go for a 4-4-2, then surely Newcastle United's got to be, adaptable like that as well, and at least go for it a little bit.
I mean, we didn't do it at Sunderland. I thought we probably would have learned a lesson, because at Sunderland, had we done the same down there and left Baltimore on, he would have probably been eager to put it right. He'd scored an own goal at Sunderland. He would have been eager to put it right. But rather than taking him off and protecting him, leave him on the pitch to put it right and put Wissa on up front with him. That's the problem that Newcastle fans are, complaining about. People are saying that we're predictable and this, that, and the other. But we weren't predictable at Everton. We went to Everton, we won 4-1. But it's the manner in which we're losing games, and I just genuinely feel that that's what's disappointing people. But it can change, And I've said this for best part of the season. Fulham, prime example. We're teetering above the bottom three. 2 weeks ago, they've won 3 league games, and now they're in the top half of the table, challenging for Europe. So it's not all done and dusted. It's not over in December, and I'm like a broken record when we do this podcast. Nothing is over until May. And it's in May that you judge Eddie Howe. You judge Eddie Howe in May. Newcastle aren't going to get relegated. Newcastle are in the semi-finals of a cup. Newcastle are potentially going to be in the next round of the Champions League fixtures, and they've got the FA Cup to play for. The season isn't over, and Howe really can change things if he gets a grip of what he's doing. There is a lot of talk behind the scenes of unrest. That is the biggest problem at Newcastle at the moment. I have lost track of how many people I've seen on social media over the course of the last couple of weeks talk about Kieran Trippier. We do miss his leadership, and you miss Dan Burns' leadership, but Kieran Trippier allegedly, socialising over Christmas. He's a professional footballer. He's allowed to socialise. He's allowed to have a social life. But people are alleging and saying that he's not in a great place. And I hope he is okay, and I hope everything is all right. But if that's the case, that's not going to go down well in the dressing room. There is talk of a little bit of dressing room unrest, and that there are people who are not doing as not doing as they should be doing, and that's going to cause problems. But this happens during a season. This happens in a season. I still think as well we are suffering a massive hangover from the summer, and it's always going to be a situation that's gonna cause unrest. If a player as big as Alexander Isak leaves the football club, it's going to cause an issue. And your style of play over the last 3 years has been set up to feed one man to score goals, two men if you count Callum Wilson, but obviously Isak was the number one striker.
Yeah.
To suddenly take that out and not replace him with a like-for-like forward was always going to cause issues. And I think we're still suffering a huge hangover from that as well. So I don't know what the answer is. Is it a delve into the transfer market and hope we can bring in somebody? I would say it has to be. It has to be a situation where we can go and do that. But now you're saying that people, I wouldn't trust Eddie Howe spending that money. Look at what he spent it on in the summer. But I say to that, Eddie Howe isn't given the checks to cash during the summer. That was given. That job wasn't given to Eddie Howe. That job was Eddie Howe writes a list, right? But he doesn't go and buy the players. He doesn't go and do that. He gives them a list. We've heard Eddie Howe already say.
It's not the model of a modern football club, is it?
It's not, man. It's the chief executive. It's the chief executive and the sporting director who make those decisions. The chief executive.
He's not the manager. He's the head coach.
He's a coach. The chief executive is the one who speaks to PIF and says, how much can we spend? The sporting director is the man who deals with the scouts and says, what have you got for us? And Eddie Howe gives a wish list. That's how it works. Eddie Howe doesn't go out and say X, Y, and Z, and gets them. And that's the problem. That is the problem. And the same goes for outgoings. Eddie Howe is always going to say in a press conference, I don't want to let Alexander Isak, Sandro Tonali, Lewis Miley, the list is endless. I don't want to leave. I don't want to let them leave. He hasn't got an option. If PIF want to sell Joe Linton in January to a Saudi club, which is possible, then that's what's going to happen, I'm afraid. And we've got no say. Eddie's got no say. And that's exactly where we are. But we've gone from having the most unified dressing room for me, I believe it's caused massive unrest, and it's now, some results have papered over the cracks. The cup runs papered over the cracks. But for me, I think that's where we are. And that's how we'll answer the boil, Gary. Transfers. Some players you'll find will leave in January. I think I'd be surprised if we don't see a couple of names leave in January who we wouldn't have expected to leave in January. I think we will see a little bit of movement. We've just got to hope that we can bring in players to replace,
Ruben Neves obviously been rumoured again as well, Steve. I know obviously Barry, who's just commented on there, Barry keeps his spreadsheet. I'm sure Ruben Neves, I'd be interested to see how many times his name's cropped up. But obviously he's out there in Saudi at the minute, isn't he? And it might be a convenient swap deal, be a good like for like. Possibly a better footballer in general terms than what Joe Linton is as well. So, of course, that's all yet to come. I mean, the window's opening in 3 days' time, and some of the rumours going around already are just absolutely insane. We were linked with Harry Kane yesterday.
Yeah,
which I never thought in a million years I'd ever be sitting on a live show discussing that. It's
I mean, look, it's anything's possible. Anything's possible. I think Harry Kane will be a target for lots of clubs. In lots of windows. I'm not sure Harry Kane would want to come back. I think Harry Kane at the moment is enjoying his football.
He's at a monster of a club, mate, as well.
He's at a monster of a club, and he's guaranteed Champions League every year. Why would you chuck that away? Yeah. What, to come back and beat a poxy record in the Premier League, which, let's face it, Alan Shearer's record is a Premier League record only. The leading goal scorer ever is Jimmy Greaves, and no one will ever get close to that, not even Erling Haaland. But what you're telling me that he's going to sacrifice a load of silverware and being a legend in not just England, but also in Germany. He's going to sacrifice that to come back and play for any club in the Premier League.
Even better beer over there, mate. He's going to trade in all those Oktoberfests and come and drink Madry. Nah,
exactly. He's made for life, Harry Kane, and he's got a spring in his step. Which, I'm not a huge England fan. I'll watch the World Cup, of course, and I watch the Euros. But that Harry Kane performing as he is and finding his goal scoring instinct again and playing with a smile on his face and winning trophies can only be good for England in this World Cup year in 2026.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Just a good point from Barry there. Sunderland has shown with the right Bros non-Premier League experience and players from outside the Premier League and have a damn good go. That's one thing as well that in fact, I was going to pen a little article about it, is Sunderland are doing most of their business outside of the Premier League, which is, it's a unique way to go at it. Do you think we'll see a point where we actually do start and go for proven Premier League quality, or do you think Sunderland are doing it right the way they are? Because with Premier League, I'll use an example. I'll use Kobbie Mainoo, who is an example here of a player who is Premier League quality. I think we can pretty much all agree on that. On his days, he's a very, very good player. But with the Premier League, with that Premier League experience, sometimes comes a little bit of arrogance and a little bit of ego. And it seems a bit of a risk to start and take players from the Premier League who kind of like, well, I've been around and done this for quite a while. Do you think that's something that Sunderland should actively avoid doing, or do you think we're actually along the right lines of what we're doing right now?
I mean, whoever's made the decisions in the summer, really, you need to keep a hold of them. That's been Sunderland's best signing in recent years, because whoever is making these decisions and finding these players, they are the ones who are getting it right. And you've got to give credit to Kirill, who, to be fair, I know from people who know Kirill and have worked for Kirill in the past are. It's the way that he deals with transfers. He doesn't leave it to other people. He's on the phone to the player. He's speaking to the agent. He's welcomes them to the club, and it's not a PR exercise. He's genuinely, he's hands on, Kirill. Do you know what I mean? And that in itself,
he wants the right people.
That in itself really speaks volumes for where Sunderland are at the moment. So. I just think it's the scouting, and suddenly going to buy big name players. It doesn't always work. I mean, Xhaka is a household name. Everybody knows who Granit Xhaka is. If you're a football fan, you might not know his career history, but you'll know who Granit Xhaka is. You'll have heard of him and known the teams that he's played for. And that being the jewel in the crown for Sunderland this year. Without Xhaka, Sunderland don't win as many games, I don't think. And I think. I think they struggle a little bit with the experience. That's what he brings. He brings experience, and it's very like Kieran Trippier coming to Newcastle 4 years ago. It's one of those landmark signings that you will always remember. And, you will always remember the way that he's conducted himself and held himself, as far as Sunderland's concerned. He's probably up there as the best signing that Sunderland have had since probably Niall Quinn. Niall Quinn was another one. He was like an established, pro coming towards the back end of his career who went to Sunderland and who was a talisman for them for years and forged a partnership with Kevin Phillips. And, then obviously came back and, a bit like our Kevin Keegan story, came back and helped Kevin Keegan, Kevin Keegan coming back. Niall Quinn did the same. He's got such an affinity with the club. I think Jermaine Defoe is probably another one who springs to mind who, got the club, got the area.
Legacy, but yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's what Granit Xhaka is. He's another one of that kind of blue chip kind of player that Sunderland have managed to attract. And again, that's credit to the ownership who've they've got it right so far. And I think, you've said it many times, and other Sunderland fans that I know have said it exactly the same. Oh, well, it's only December, using my kind of mantra, everything can change in the second half of the season. We're hoping to get 40 points and that's it. But, Sunderland, really, I think the players and Granit Xhaka has got the squad believing that they can get into Europe this season, and that's got to be the aim as far as they're concerned. We went through and I can see your name on the screen there. We've played nobody in 2025, but it's now not just that. it's the AFCON. AFCON was going to jeopardise Sunderland's opportunity. AFCON was going to screw your season up. Well, you've only played one game against Brighton, but Brighton's a tough nut to crack, and you go down there and you get a 0-0 draw. You don't play it particularly well, but you've got another point in the bag. Now you've got a unique opportunity today at 2:00 against Leeds at home, who are playing well at this moment in time. But you've got another chance. You've got a chance to get at least another point in the bag today. I've got both the games today down as draws, but I genuinely feel that, again, it's another point. I don't think you'll lose today's game, but I think that I just think the way Sunderland have done it is it was risky, especially following that kind of Nottingham Forest kind of. Let's just go and buy as many
overhaul,
players and hope they all work together. But I was talking to somebody this week about your goalkeeper, and we've goalkeepers are obviously the subject that we've discussed on NUFC Matters for the last 3 or 4 months, and lots of us wanting Ramsdale to at least have a chance to play. And I've seen nothing in Ramsdale that makes him any better than Pope for me. So for me, Nick Pope should be back in the next game against Burnley, and I don't expect to see Ramsdale again unless there's another sending off for Pope or another injury. But your keeper, whoever scouted your keeper, has done a great job there, because that's the kind of keeper that I'd love to see Newcastle have. I would, lots of times you go, who are the players that would fit into Newcastle's team? Well, I wouldn't mind Grant Xhaka in the midfield for Newcastle, and I wouldn't mind Roos for Newcastle in goal. So it's credit to Sunderland's backroom staff. Scouts,
I'm going to take that as a video short for later on, because that's the first time I think I've ever. That's the first time I've ever heard you say about a Sunderland player would fit into a Newcastle team. So I think that's it's progress as far as we're concerned, isn't it? But
it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Roof's got won a lot of praise from Peter Schmeichel of all people. Schmeichel was absolutely raving about him, about the way he dominates his box, he comes for crosses, and that's given us a lot of confidence. Obviously, we talk about Xhaka. I could talk about them all day. Like, I've developed such a serious man crush on Granit Xhaka. It's unbelievable. I've never, ever known a player come into a club and just change its whole philosophy. And literally, from fans to boardroom, the Granit Xhaka effect is absolutely huge. But for me, it's too early to say if he's going to be one of the best signings we've ever made. One with the biggest impact, absolutely. I've never ever seen anything like this. He's the best captain we've had, certainly since Kevin Ball. By a country mile, he's the best captain we've had. That's no disrespect about who's gone before. About my feelings on Dan Neil. I don't think he's a Premier League quality footballer, but he wore his heart in his sleeve, and he at least tried when he was in the Championship with us. I just think that Xhaka effect is huge, but what that's doing is lifting the standard of players around him. Roofs, for example, his confidence for a young lad. His first real season in professional football at senior level was last season. And he's come into the Premier League and just looks like he's absolutely owning it. He reminds me actually of like a young Peter Cech. He's got that kind of that dynamicism about. Oh, it was an easy one to say that. It's a good job I didn't have a drink this morning. So there's the same. There's obviously the back line who. 6 clean sheets already this season. The likes of Dan Ballard. Another one where we're going to be lucky to hold on to Dan Ballard, because I think he's starting to win a lot of suitors. Liverpool, obviously, well documented that they've got a bit of a flimsy back four at this moment in time. Dan Ballard would certainly fit their style of play and bring a bit of physicality into it. But right now, I don't think anybody will want to leave that, because the tails are up. The confidence is there. Today is going to be. It's going to be a tough match, because Leeds are on form. Obviously, we've got the lads who are away with AFCON, although it does look like Reinildo will be back in the new year, because it doesn't look like Mozambique are going to qualify out of the group stages. So bad news for him, but great news for us, I guess, because it's a big loss having him behind Roofs and Xhaka. Reinildo, the left back, has been our absolute star for me. But I think we've got more more than enough about us to actually, give Leeds a problem still. Let's be honest, they don't travel well away from home. Something that Newcastle obviously are becoming a little bit too familiar with themselves, but they don't travel well. Their fans, their fans are just so arrogant. They're absolutely still convinced they're a massive club, and they're not. They're absolutely not. I mean, they ran away with the championship last season, but for me, listen, I'd love nothing more than to shut Leeds up. As tough a game as it'll be, because I don't think they've been massively affected by AFCON in any way. But yeah, I mean, my prediction, I've gone the same as you. Actually, I've gone a draw as well, but I would just love to see us sneak one over on them, because I really can't stand them. But yeah. So what needs to happen in January then, mate? Because that's going to be the next thing. Obviously, we're talking about whether Eddie Howe is there or not. Obviously, there's decisions to be made with the playing staff. What for you needs to be addressed from the Newcastle United perspective?
We still need a forward. I haven't changed. There's nothing wrong with the back four. The back four at the moment is obviously, it's dilapidated because of injury. I mean, Tino Livramento shouldn't be too far away. Kieran Trippier, is again, it said January. Kraft will be back in January. Dan Burn probably won't be back and fully fit, I wouldn't imagine, until the end of January, start of February. So, we will be getting those players back in. So it's pointless signing a defender. We need another striker, and we need a goal scorer. That's what we need. We need somebody who puts the ball in the back of the net, somebody who can get in on the end of those chances that people didn't at Man United. That was the big problem at Manchester United. Two great crosses, one from Gordon, another one from Lewis Hall, and nobody sliding in to tap the ball into the net. Because it's either laziness or it's just not thinking. Whatever it is, they're not capable of doing it, and that seems to be the big issue. So we do need somebody who can get on the end of these crosses and put the ball in the back of the net. And we do need a creative midfielder. We've been crying out for a creative midfielder for the last few years. Somebody like a Peter Beardsley, somebody like a player, just somebody who can turn on a sixpence and create something from nothing. I mean, to be honest, midfield is the big issue, and we've gone on about the midfield three, but Joe Linton is a shadow of his former self. Hence the reason he's been linked with a move, across to Saudi Arabia, in the January window. But we do need another, creative midfielder, and perhaps a combative midfielder, somebody who can prevent. And stop the pressure that, maybe the back four feels on occasions. But we don't need wholesale surgery. We just need to make some valuable additions. That's exactly what we need. But it's the creativity that we don't have. And Eddie Howe was asked about that after the Manchester United game. And, he said, it can be creativity, but it can be other things. And he pointed more to the stats and said that we didn't capitalize on good play, because let's face it, right, against Manchester United, we didn't play badly. We didn't really play badly. No. We just didn't score goals. That's the problem. We just didn't score the goals, and that's the big disappointment.
Sorry, mate, I've just got to laugh there. I hate to interrupt, but Jules is right. Your air fryer's ready.
Every time I'm on the show, unfortunately, somebody comes. If I'm doing it from the kitchen, that's what happens. And my microphone that I use is so powerful, it does pick up the background noise. So Jules always likes to pick up on the air fryer whenever anybody makes something in the kitchen.
How's the bacon, did you say?
How's the bacon, did you say? Yeah.
Going back to Joe Linton, though, mate, and obviously we didn't see him in the derby, and that was kind of like it was a little bit of a disappointment, to be honest, because like I say, I was looking forward to a blood and snot midfield derby, plenty of tackles flying in and all that sort of thing, and he definitely would have brought that. He got subbed in the last Champions League game. Didn't look happy about it. Obviously, he had that groin problem, and he was taken off as a precaution. He looked pretty temperamental about it. He didn't look happy about it. Sometimes that's great. Sometimes you want a player who's unhappy to come off because they're trying, and that's, they want to be out there, that they think they can have an effect on the game, which is priceless in a lot of cases. You need players like that. However, he came on against Man United, and whereas you think get stuck in a little bit, the first thing he did was just clatter somebody for a needless foul, and I thought That's not the player that I'm used to seeing. There's normally there's plenty of guile and plenty of bite about him, but it almost looked like, I don't want to use the word petulant, but that's what it came across as. Now, I don't know whether Joe Linton was pro Isak camp or anti Isak camp, but I think, going back to what you were saying, the likes of Joe Linton is one of them that highlights where there may be divisions in that squad. And I don't know whether this has actually come from, look, there's plenty of people in black and white shirts been celebrating Isak's injury. There's others that don't condone going down that line of celebrating people getting injured and their season being over. But is there an element of that in the squad, do you think, that's caused this rift? Not rift, but certainly a bit of a division in the squad. Is it the Isak hangover that's caused that?
Some of it is, yeah, there's no doubt about it. There were some players who were really close to Isak, and we know who they are. Whoooooa, Jacob Murphy, Alanga, all of these players are really, were really close. I mean, Alanga, you would have to say, probably came to Newcastle United because of his relationship with his fellow countrymen.
Yeah.
But then you've got the situation with, the relationship with Whoooooa. We saw it all online, we saw it because these players have Instagram, they have TikTok, and they're posting videos, they're pushing stuff up on social media, and you're thinking, well, they're not going to be happy that the mate's gone. And, yeah, it's football and it happens all the time, but, we're in this kind of situation where, there's nothing you can do about it. That's it. It's as simple as that, But I just genuinely think that Joe Linton has not played well since the cup final. I don't think that that's because he's suddenly become a bad player. I probably think that he needs to have some kind of, massive breast or surgery or something like that. I've got no idea what is wrong with him, but it's not the same Joe Linton. Hence the frustration that he probably feels when he comes onto the pitch and he pushes across, into a player and has a go at a player in that kind of situation,
I don't know. Are we breaking for the cat today? Have we got the?
Yeah. I've got the cat, mate. Yeah.
We'll come back to Joe Linton because obviously, we're going to see some changes in the second half of the season. Just want to get sort of your thoughts on 2025 as well, because I mean, all right, this season's been a little bit iffy for Newcastle, but all in all, 2025 has been a hell of a year for both Sunderland and Newcastle with promotion, cup wins after 70 years. We'll cover a little bit more of a retrospective on that and then what we're looking forward to for next year. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good to me. Bearing in mind we got dropped in it by the Aussie today, so we are just busking along, as most people will be able to tell. But it is time for Troll of the Week.
No one noticed.
Well, if you've got Christmas, give yourself a pat on the back, is what I'd say, first of all. And there was bad news coming through on the news channels over the festive period as well. Bono was struck down with a winter virus days before Christmas. He told the Daily Dafty, well, tonight, thank God it's phlegm instead of flu.
Oh, God.
Here's a nice football away days picture. Away in a manger. Very good. And following on from Ted's rant about Boxing Day fixtures, good old Tony Poulos said, I'm so pleased the Football League has stuck to tradition by having a full programme of games. Well done to them, and bar humbug to the Premier League. Well said, Tony Poulos. We certainly agree. Rai sent us this one. The Satsuma watching me get a tube of Pringles from the Christmas cupboard. And my dad asked for a wire stripper, so I made him this for Christmas.
Tremendous.
And the January sales are starting. Me, why am I so broke? Amazon, your parrot's wig has been delivered. And getting back to the January sales, when I shop, lads and lasses, I don't just buy the first thing I see, I browse.
That's a monster.
No Jack Grealish yesterday for Everton. Somebody posted Moyes on Jack Grealish. He's just got a bit of a virus and he's not been well over Christmas time, so he's not available today. Charlie said, disgustingly bad hangover then, which is probably right as far as he's concerned. Yes. And Alexander Isak, I resisted the temptation to put up a lot of the tweets that I was sent by people of rats with x-rays and stuff like that. But good to see him yesterday on the mend and after his operation, doing a bit of stewarding at a game. Fantastic. Good stuff. And I love this. AFC flight. We recognise that many of our younger supporters are unable to travel up and down the country over the course of the season. So for our final away trip before Christmas, and as a present from the chairman, the club is providing a free bus to Kidderminster on a first-come, first-served basis. And we encourage our supporters to bring the noise. What a wonderful gesture by AFC.
Good little club filed, actually. My father-in-law goes along and watches them occasionally. Like, but if he can't make it to a Fleetwood or Blackpool game, they're a lovely little club.
We did get another text from Rye. Convicts 3, Poms 0. That was at his local supermarket, of course. That should now read 3-1 because we have managed to actually win a game of cricket in Australia. And if you're taking photographs, always be careful about what is in the photograph. My new red dress is about to take my co-workers' breath away at my company's Christmas party. If there's an open bar again this year, someone might get lucky and have their stocking stuffed tonight. Yes, maybe flush the toilet first, Pat. And there was a big fight. I say fight, it's more like wrestling, but Anthony Joshua took on a YouTuber. All things considered, I think Jake Paul looks like he's healing up pretty well anyway. Good for him. We have actually got some proper tweets as well. Thinking about chopping off my long ass hair, said this woman on Twitter. Opie Taylor replied, how long is your ass hair? And this woman accused of snorting a dead mum's ashes at a house party. Liam said, how much did she snort? $5,000. Excellent. And fellas, how do you feel when your girl apologizes to you? Spike Lee Joint replies, when she what? And the footy selection, it's being reported that a Wolves training session was delayed for nearly 2 hours today after a player reported finding an unknown white powdery substance on the pitch. Training was suspended while an investigation was launched after a complete analysis. Experts determined that the white substance unknown to the players was actually the goal line. Training resumed after it was decided that the team was unlikely to encounter the substance again this season. You are playing Leeds United today. This tattoo was spotted by an eagle-eyed person on Facebook.
No.
Yes. A Leeds United tattoo covered by a Newcastle United tattoo. Unbelievable. Fewest matches to 10 goals in a season. Erling Haaland 5, Mick Quinn 6. Mick wasn't happy. For fuck's sake, I wish Roy Keane would have tackled his dad in his bollocks and I would have still had 5 Premier League records left. I love Quinny. And Peter Crouch, when I was in Liverpool, we did Secret Santa. I got Rafa Benitez. So I got him Jose Mourinho's book. It was a guide on how to win the league. It was when Chelsea were winning everything. I was there when he opened it. Absolutely brilliant. Just how to do that. Remember when young players looked about 50? Ernie McGaw here, aged 25.
Jesus Christ.
Hard paper round. And during the COVID lockdown, if you had family round on Christmas Day, police could force entry to your home and make them go home. Does anyone know if this service is still available and if you have to book? And me being lifted to my spot on the sofa after smashing my Christmas dinner and a large bowl of trifle. We'll finish with two Christmas-related ones just to finish the festive season. May all your mince pies taste like Fanny's. Fanny Craddock, Cook of the Year, of course, 1960 to 1980. My favourite tweet over the festive period was this: happy birthday, mate. Hope you have a good one. That was genuinely the best tweet of all time over Christmas. That young'un. If you've got any tweets, send them over to me at my email, nufcmatters1892@gmail.com, or send them to Ted or Rye, although they may not make it onto the show if you send them to Rye.
Yeah. He has been in touch. He has apologised. He's got a few family things he needs to see to. So it's we'll let them off on this one because we do love regards Mick, his dad, who's a feature of the show many times.
Yes, he was. Yes,
he is. We do want to have him on the show at some point. I have asked the question. I think we need. Not get my dad on. Christ, that's going to be a bit of a challenge. But we do need certainly not in the last 14 years. Anyway, he passed away. It's going to be a bit difficult. But yeah, we need to get the dads on. We need to get some family members involved in this, and just make the show even more uncomfortable than what it normally is. Obviously, 2025, mate, I would assume that the biggest upside for you was actually getting the monkey off the back for Newcastle United, a trophy after 70 years. It's, all right, we're talking last season, but if we're talking the calendar year, it's actually been a bit of a good year. Well, for the two big Northeast teams, obviously Middlesbrough, had a bit of a shaky season towards the end of last season. Didn't go quite as well as what the hoped it would. Look a little bit stronger this time around, but 2025 for us too, mate. Try and put it into words, because it's been a great one, hasn't it?
Yeah, getting the monkey off the back was a huge thing for us. Winning a trophy, first domestic trophy in 70 years, was superb. And of course, managing to nick that final Champions League place on the last day of the season was even better. So, we achieved everything that we wanted and more last season. And of course, it was, as you say, it was in this calendar year, 2025. For me, the season, this season it's been up and down. We've been back in the Champions League, and our Champions League performances have been brilliant. We've got 2 games to go in January, and we've got a chance of being in the next stage, which is not something we've even thought was possible 4 or 5 years ago. So that in itself really deserves to be recognised. We are going through a bad run of form at the minute, and especially away from home. St James's Park, our home form is exceptional, and we need to find the recipe for success on the road. And if we do, this season isn't a write-off. It's not a write-off. Anybody who says it's a write-off is what are they? They've got a crystal ball. If it continues in the same way and in the same vein, yes, of course, Newcastle United are going to struggle. But we genuinely feel that. I genuinely feel that with the right moves in the transfer market, and with a few alterations on the training ground, Newcastle can still save their season. So yeah, but 2025 has been positive. What 2026 brings, who knows? But it won't be a relegation battle, and for me, I'm happy about that. That's what we as Northeast football clubs have been used to in our existence as football supporters. Ups and downs. Yo-yo clubs. But at the moment, the way it looks is that Newcastle and Sunderland will both be in the Premier League next season competing, and Middlesbrough are hoping to join us.
Yeah, which is the big one. I mean, that takes this show into, God, can you imagine how unbearable he's going to be in the Premier League, though? Oh my God! When he does turn up,
yeah.
No, I've got to echo that, mate. I mean, I sat here this time last year, and I was very bravely predicting, well, if we're still in the top 4, I think we might get promoted. Of course, it's out of hope than expectation. That was the way I was feeling at the time, and to go through that back end of the season where, we guaranteed ourselves the playoffs, but the end to the regular season was pretty poor. We weren't in good form at all. As it transpired, Regis Lebris was actually playing an absolute massive tactical masterstroke and just keeping all the players fit and ready, and going into those 2 games against Coventry with a plan to upset them, and I guess plan for a bigger future and try and get there. And the game at Wembley, when you're almost 2-0 down, and thank God for VAR. I never thought I'd ever say that on this show, but thank God for VAR that we only were 1-0 down and were fought back. An incredible against the odds kind of performance, really. It was typical of Sunderland that season. I think it kind of galvanized the fans, and this whole till the end thing that the club is using beautifully in all of its marketing. There's tattoos of it. It's on T-shirts. It's everywhere, and I think that has really pushed this whole mentality of the club doesn't know when it's beaten. That's even today. If we get the 80 odd minutes and it's a 0-0 draw, you kind of go, yeah, but we're going to score because we always score late in the game. And there's that kind of belief about it, and that's probably the biggest thing I'll take from 2025 as far as Sunderland Football Club is concerned. Belief, and it's something we haven't had for such a long time. I mean, Steve, you know, when we first started doing shows together, it was League One for me. It was just an absolute disaster. You know, getting the likes of Michael Beale in charge of the club, it was an absolute turgid time to be a fan. And you know, to turn that round and see the way it's transformed in the last year, and as you rightly said, you know, if you talk a man of the year, Regis Lebris takes a lot of the credit for it because I think he's a fabulous manager. I've said it before; he gives me real Wenger vibes the way he conducts himself. But Kirill Louis-Dreyfus is just wow. Yeah, I mean, talk about, you know, saving the club certainly from almost going into administration, because we were on a knife edge with that. We really were, probably a lot closer than what a lot of fans think. But to steady the ship and to come under a lot of criticism. You know, me included. I was there with the criticism of the likes of Christian Speakman, people like that, for not splashing the cash in the Championship. But we had a model, and they stuck to it. They absolutely, to the point of angering fans, stuck to their plan and got us out of there. And you know, all right, you know, you can't look your stars. That there is a little bit of luck you've got to pick up on the way, but to go about it and then to make such an impact. And such a statement and entering the Premier League with spending what they have, 15 new players, more to come in. You know, I'm reliably informed that Guendouzi will be pretty much a Sunderland player as soon as the window opens, which is another absolute quality addition to the team. That as well. Good pals with Granit Xhaka from his Arsenal days. I'm going into 2026 probably the most optimistic I've ever been as a Sunderland fan. And that's tantamount to the success that's been built on this one. Whatever happens. We've got some tough games to go, as Mr. Wraith always says, over in December. I fully agree with you, mate. But I think, you know, we've got to kind of look at this and go, what a year for Sunderland. And I think we're probably in one of the healthiest positions we've been in a long time. We're finishing this year, whichever way we look at it, the highest position in the last quarter of a century. That for me, it's a weird way of defining success. Success is a weird thing because it's very, you know, it's a weird thing to judge in football. But for us, that is success, and it's a stepping stone towards a really brighter future, mate. I'm well happy with the way the year's gone.
Yeah, me too. I've just seen Jules' questions there. My challenge this year, so I'm nearly at the end of my album. I'm nearly at the end of my album challenge. So yeah,
I've got one for you actually. I'm going to message you that because I was listening to it
yesterday.
Right, yeah. I'm going to forward you one over.
Yeah, I'm listening to Porridge Radio today. So I'm halfway through their album, which has got a rather interesting title. Just give you 2 seconds. It is called...
Apologies, I've been joined by another guest.
Rice, Pasta and Other Fillers by Porridge Radio. It's they describe themselves as punk indie. So, yeah, that's an interesting album. So that's it. That's what I'm listening to. But my New Year's resolution for 2026 is I'm going to watch a film a week, one film a week, mobile off, and watch a film a week. It's got to be a film I haven't seen, of course. So that's my challenge. That is my challenge, and I continue to do the poems. I write a poem a day, so I'm 2 years into that challenge. But yeah, it's good. It's good to have different things. Yes, it's a cat, Jules. For me, moving forward in 2026 is going to be it's going to be an interesting one for Newcastle United. It's a transitional period after losing Isaac, and what we do and how we do it really depends massively on recruitment of a new centre forward, a new goal scorer, and that is really a big thing for us. We've got a situation that's developing which is beyond our control. Players are getting older. We've got a back four of Fabian Shaw, Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier, who are all over 30, and we're in this position now where these players need replacing. So it's a transitional period, a huge period, in a situation which we've got to spend money to achieve our goals.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Talking about New Year's resolutions as well, because I mean, anybody who has seen Steve's his social media aspect, like And I'm quite quiet when it comes to like sort of bigging up my mates sometimes, but in Steve's case, you've got to go and check out some of his poetry because it is absolutely brilliant. Like, we'll go for some very, very serious, deep stuff. There's some very some deep matter in there, but some of the lyrics are absolutely superb as well. Like, they absolutely crack me up. So get onto his socials and check that out. Like, I'm actually going to pull my finger out my ass and work on this channel this coming year. I've promised it now for a couple of years, but I've finally been shamed into it. The thing is, for anybody out there who's watching this, when you work with people like Steve and Rye, it's not like work because they're your mates, essentially. What's the cat doing?
You need a green screen. You need a green screen.
He's checking himself out in the mirror, the vain little git. Strange. So yeah, but when you work with Steve and when you work with Rye, they are very, very good at what they do. Steve's out there doing content about 7 days a week on top of everything else he does. Rye is a whiz at being able to come up with very quick bits of content and getting his shorts out there. He's naturally very, very hilarious as well, which galls me to say that, but he is. So yes, I need to do more. So I'm going to actually start a bit more writing, as well as obviously trying to do more on the YouTube side of things. I'm going to get a little bit into some amateur journalism, Steve. That's my game. So I want to do one decent large piece every week. Is the challenge I'm setting myself as well. Like, so yeah, it's we'll see how it goes. I'm sure there'll be plenty of rants, there'll be plenty of celebratory stuff, but yeah, it's something I'm dead. Shut up. Dead keen to do. Yes,
I think to be honest, if anybody hasn't read your article, they should have a look at it, because your article about the Boxing Day lack of Boxing Day fixes was brilliant, and I think it got a lot of traction. A lot of people agreed with it. But yeah, mate, that's what you got to do when you're creative. You've just got to create, and I think I put a post up the other day about acting. I mean that's my passion as an actor. But I've had over 25 castings this year. And got one job, and that's how difficult it is to be in my profession. But that doesn't mean that you just stop and waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for your agent to say you've got the part and this is how much you're getting paid. You've just got to be creative and do other things, So that's it. It's as simple as that. Be creative. If you can, write your poetry, write a play, get out and chase your own jobs. Don't wait for your agent to get in touch with you. It's just that's what you've got to do. But yeah, good for you, mate. That you need to do it. You're good at what you do, and you're nice of you to say what you say about me and Rye. But it's this show has been successful because all three of us are very good at talking about our respective football clubs and all very passionate, but do it in a nice and polite way. And yeah, we've all had ups and downs, but that's what makes the show a success.
Yeah. It's well, yeah. I mean, we got rid of the downside when we left the radio station, and now we're doing the good stuff. So. It's only funny because it's true.
Good stuff.
Right.
Good stuff.
Well, let's cover off the games. Obviously, we've got our game today. I'm going to get ready shortly and go and watch it with Charlie in the local pub, probably surrounded by a load of Scotties who are Leeds fans, knowing my luck. Listen. Tough game. Leeds are in identical form to us now in the last 6 games. They're turned into a decent side. Daniel Farke been very complimentary about Sunderland and the way they're done. And he said he isn't even surprised at how well they're doing. He was impressed by them last season. So there's a bit of a love in there. There won't be any love in on the pitch. There won't be any love in on the terraces because there's always been a good bit of rivalry between the two. I'm going to go for a draw. Me head's saying draw. I'm going to go for a 1s each, but yeah, me heart's just telling us we might just sneak a win over the old enemy here, mate. But let's go for a 1s each draw anyway for me.
I'm going to go for the same. I do genuinely think that this is it'll be an interesting game. But I'll go 2-2. I think there'll be a few more goals. I think both teams are capable of scoring goals. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sunderland take a bit of a lead and Leeds to peg them back in the second half. But there's definitely a bit of fight in Leeds these days compared to what we saw at the start of the season. So yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw, which I think will suit both teams.
Calvert-Lewin on fire as well at the minute. I mean, a lot of people scoffed that signing, but I think he scored in the last 5 games running.
Yes,
which is a decent form for a striker. That so we were definitely going to have to be on our game for him today. When's your next game, mate?
So we played Burnley on Tuesday,
Yes.
and I mean that really is a game which, if we go into this match in similar fashion to what we did against Manchester United, I've got no doubt that we'll probably get a result against Burnley. We've just got to put our chances away. But that's the bottom line. We've got to put our chances away. It's the season isn't over. Like I keep saying to people, but for us, we can more than capable of going to Burnley and winning. And suddenly 3 points. Then you're going into a home game against Leeds. You're looking at it and thinking, well, Newcastle maybe can pick up a few points now. We've got Leeds, we've got Crystal Palace. We've got games that we can win. Wolves coming up, so I'm not doom and gloom, but I am going to go for Newcastle just to edge it down at Burnley. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win at Burnley for Newcastle to get things back on track on Tuesday night. And you've got Man City on Thursday, I think.
Yeah, New Year's Day against Man City. It's I think it was the 95th minute where G actually stuck one past them a good few years ago during the Martin O'Neill era. I'd probably settle for the same, mate. But I can see Newcastle coming away with the 3 points. I think Burnley are deep in trouble, mate. They've shown a little bit of fight. That's certainly a lot more fight than what Wolverhampton Wanderers have, because they're just absolutely dire. But I can't see Burnley getting out of it, unfortunately. I can see a 2-0 win for the Geordies there. Going into our game New Year's Day, because I don't think we'll have a show before then. No, we won't. Do you know what? We're going to do them. We're going to do Man City. I'm going to go for a repeat. I know. I haven't gone for a win all this series so far that we've done. I'm going for a win against Man City. I'm going to say we're going to sneak it. We're going to beat them 1-0.
2-0 to Man City for me. I think Man City are on a good run. Yeah, Man City's too good for Sunderland, and I think Man City will beat Sunderland 2-0. They are neck and neck with Arsenal for a reason, and they are really starting to show their class. And even when they're playing badly, they're still winning games. They didn't play well yesterday, and they won 2-1. So for me, yes, 100%. I genuinely think that'll be a 2-0 win. But yes, all it remains, I guess, is to say Happy New Year to everybody for tuning in. I am back on my own channel tonight, NUFC Matters, with the professionals at 5 o'clock. But have a good New Year, Ted, and enjoy the match today.
Buddy, lad.
And look forward to. And let's hope Rye's dad's okay, and we will see Rye on the next show in the new year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Take care, everybody.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.